The relative world always entails duality. One might think the absolute world is eternal, but in a sense, the world that truly never ends is the world of relativity. Just as a fractal structure never ends, our notions, existential universe, and suffering are endless. This is precisely because the world we live in is a world of relativity. Relativity always breeds suffering. Suffering is the mother of relativity. We often consider the absolute world to be solid, unchanging, and hierarchical. However, this is merely because our ignorant brains have succeeded in conceptualizing it that way. The absolute world is not synonymous with a fixed world. Rather, a fixed world gives birth to a relative world. Our consciousness loves relativity. To maintain itself, our brain continuously views the world through a lens of relative comparison. Relativity is not flexibility. It is like a crack in the door through which darkness and suffering enter us. Being absolute does not mean being foolishly fixated, nor does it mean a rigid world with a hierarchy. Hierarchy exists only in the relative world. Everything relative, including time and all physical units, plunges us into suffering. If we cannot escape relativity, there is no eternal rest for us. And fortunately, an absolute world and absolute values exist beyond all relative worlds. The existence of the absolute realm is the gospel that we do not have to suffer forever. The absolute realm simply exists in and of itself. The reason we fail to perceive absoluteness is due to self-centered interpretation and self-centered pity. In the world of relativity, which is a sea of suffering, humanity chose a self-centered universe, but this has proven to be a very foolish choice. Escaping the relative realm means transcending it and entering the absolute realm. It does not come from forming and protecting an individual universe that merely appears somewhat absolute within the relative universe. Let us be clear that the absolute realm does not mean everything is the same. The absolute realm is a realm of mystery that a consciousness trapped in the relative realm can never perceive. Only that which has never fallen into suffering and has not been tainted by the relative realm can perceive the absolute realm. The absolute realm did not give birth to the relative realm. The absolute realm is not the mother of the relative realm. Therefore, the belief that the universe of relativity reflects true reality is dangerous. One who holds this belief is highly likely to wander through the entire relative realm for near eternity. And the relative realm is an endlessly expanding universe. Absolute beauty is neither a paradise full of beautiful women, nor is it a collection of things with identical appearances and characteristics. However, because we always pursue beauty and truth within relativity, we constantly miss the mark. In the absolute realm, there is no such thing as darkness. Darkness is always a matter within the relative realm. All angels and demons, utopias and dystopias of the relative realm are made of suffering. All suffering also arises from comparison and relativity. Without comparison and relativity, most things would disappear for a being, leaving only the suffering of existing within a relative universe. Relativity always plunges us into suffering and pushes us into a self-centered universe that temporarily appears absolute. The relative realm imitates the absolute realm. The world we live in is nothing but a shadow of the absolute world. The difference between these two seemingly similar worlds is that the relative realm was created in suffering and ignorance. The universe created by the imperfect God spoken of in Gnosticism is the very universe we live in now. Suffering is the name of the Creator Father, and jealousy is the name of the Creator Mother who gave birth to me. The two gave birth to the relative realm out of a foolish greed to create the absolute realm themselves. The Creator Father and Mother represent the two pillars on either side of the tree of life. Every part of the Sephirot was formed by imitating the absolute realm. Absolute value, absolute goodness, and absolute beauty do not reside within us. The absolute cannot reside in a relative body. However, a few fragments of the absolute realm, deceived by the dazzle of the relative universe, were tricked into descending, causing the absolute being to dwell in a relative body, a small, shabby abode. All things absolute, all absolute values came to wear the most ragged clothes. Because the spiritual world of the relative realm cannot reflect the absolute spiritual world, it takes on an unconscious nature. Our unconscious creates the relative spiritual world. Falling into the relative spiritual world is a truly dangerous thing. We will completely lose our way out. An unconscious world where all intentions are fulfilled and where every intention stems from one's own desires is truly hell itself. Therefore, some massive consciousnesses, the consciousnesses we call gods, establish and manage hierarchies in the spiritual dimension to govern the unconscious and spiritual realms. Hell, purgatory, and heaven, as we commonly know them, actually exist within this state. A single frequency is a single prison. A single frequency is a single pattern, and once trapped in a specific frequency, there is no way for us to find another form of frequency or bring about change. Feeling that we have changed is an illusion. Our spiritual state is managed by the administrator of the unconscious. This is precisely why we end up staying in a certain state even if we do not want to. The administrator will not let you go. We will only be able to escape the prison when the administrator cannot catch us. Humans are pitiable beings trapped in a visible prison, the body, and an invisible prison, the unconscious. However, we must not forget that all of this happens within the relative realm. It is extremely difficult to recognize that the world that appears absolute to oneself is actually relative, and that the world that holds meaning for oneself is truly a world without any meaning at all. This is because our consciousness constantly whispers that this is the absolute world. The foolishness of perception is truly astonishing. All perception that occurs under the premise of survival gives birth to a foolish absolute world. In reality, it is difficult for us even to realize what state we are in, because once we step outside the universe we have created, a world unfolds where everything relatively has a reason, where everything relatively makes sense.